What's up, guys? I'm the BC, and today I'm here to do a double review. Yes, 2 reviews for you guys. Godzilla vs. Kong and Mortal Kombat. I picked these 2 for the double review because they both came out on HBO Max, and they are both popular franchise battle type movies, so I thought they'd just kind of fit well together. So let's go Godzilla vs. Kong first. I was disappointed with this movie. I didn't really like it that much. I liked the other ones in the series. I liked the MonsterVerse. I thought Godzilla 2014 was cool. Godzilla King of the Monsters was awesome. Kong Skull Island was awesome. So this movie had every expectation to be cool. And while it has sequences that are fun, it just doesn't work as a whole for me. I think this movie is just... Oddly, it's the shortest movie of this franchise, and yet it feels like the longest. This movie felt like it went on for almost 3 hours. It's all about pacing. What do you show to keep the audience invested so they don't feel like their time is being wasted? And this movie has so many exposition jumps. The other movies do that too, but at least they're delivered by actors who make it sound interesting and fun. And there are good actors in this movie, but they seem to be phoning in their performances. Let's compare this to Kong Skull Island. In that movie, you had Samuel L. freaking Jackson and John freaking Goodman delivering the exposition. Those are world-class actors who can say anything and make it sound like the most interesting thing in the world. Here we have actors who are good actors, but they just... Rebecca Hall, she's fine. She doesn't do a lot. Then there's Alexander Skarsgård, who's fine. He's a good actor, but in this movie, they feel like they don't really want to be there most of the time, and they're like, okay, we have to say this stupid line about this and this and this. I'm like, why couldn't you find actors who could deliver these lines with a lot more enthusiasm and passion to make this whole movie a lot more exciting? It's disappointing. It was boring. I kept waiting for the cool stuff to happen, and there are cool things that happen. I'm not denying that. This movie does have some freaking awesome moments, but they're so few and far between, and they don't have that sense of grandeur that I really wanted. King of the Monsters, even though there weren't a ton of action scenes in that movie, at least when there were action scenes, they were amazing and had such a huge sense of grandeur and epicness. Whereas this one, every time something crazy or big or cool happens, it just doesn't quite capture that same sense of epicness. And I think that's the director, Adam Wingard. He's an okay director, but he leaves a lot to be desired. He kind of lets the CGI take over for him. It's just kind of boring. And I hate not liking this movie because I love stupid movies about monsters fighting. And this is definitely a stupid movie about monsters fighting. It's just that in that you still have to connect to something. And I just didn't. The best part about this movie, though, is that they do make Kong more of a main character. And it did allow me to like Kong a lot. I've always liked Kong, but it was kind of cool to see him have more human emotions. That was definitely the best part of this movie, was Kong. Godzilla, though, is nothing in this movie. He shows up a few times. It's like the T-Rex in Jurassic Park, except nowhere near as cool. And I love Godzilla, and he was so cool in King of the Monsters. I loved him in King of the Monsters, but in this one, he just kind of shows up to fight Kong a couple times, and then they team up at the end. This movie's not great. I was so disappointed, and I really wanted to like it, and there are cool parts, and I think this movie is going to be fun for a lot of people who don't care. But I do care, and I wanted it to be a lot better than it was. I hate going into something that I really like. I love Godzilla, and I love King Kong, and just not loving it in the end. And I want to love it because I know there are people who really enjoy this movie, and I want to enjoy this movie as much as they do. I wanted to turn my brain off and have a fun time. But this movie doesn't let me because it's so freaking stupid. wanted to scream every time there was a dumb bit of exposition or terrible character dialogue. And I'm not going to give it as bad as a grade as you think I would, because I still did enjoy a lot of parts of this movie, but I'm going to give it a 5 out of 10. I think this is mediocre. I sound a lot more mad about it than I actually am, because I'm not mad, I'm just disappointed. I sound like a mom. This is my child who didn't really do anything wrong, but still disappointed me. That's the best metaphor I can give to this movie to make it make sense. Next up, Mortal Kombat. Mortal Kombat! This movie was actually okay. I went in with much lower expectations than I did with GVK, because that movie I had huge expectations for, because I liked all the other MonsterVerse movies. I'm like, how could it be any worse than those? And it was. So I went into Mortal Kombat with really low expectations. I was expecting like a 4 out of 10 from this movie, but I actually really enjoyed it. It's not great. There are a lot of problems that I have with it. The characters are pretty meh. They introduced this guy called Cole Young, and he's kind of our audience surrogate character. He's the descendant of Scorpion. Cool, I guess. It's better than having him be a complete rando with no ties to anything. But why couldn't we have had Johnny Cage? Johnny Cage is a fan favorite character, so you could have done a lot of other things with this movie to make it more interesting in terms of the main character. And it's so weird that instead of picking Johnny Cage, who everybody knows and loves, and he already was kind of our audience surrogate character in the 1995 movie, so why not just do that again? Like, it didn't make sense to me that we had to follow this whole new guy, because he was so bland. Louis Tan, nothing against that guy. I think he does as good as a job as he could with the script, but it's like, why introduce this brand new character if he's not even going to be interesting? Other than that, though, I do like this movie a lot. I think the rest of the cast is great. There's a lot of Japanese actors that I don't want to butcher their names, but the guys who played Scorpion and Sub-Zero are fantastic in this movie, and I can't wait to see them pop up again. I think they were the perfect casting choices. They were phenomenal. The way the characters are presented, especially the characters from the games, the more popular characters, are so cool. I love to see them in live action. I think Ludi Lin, who played Liu Kang, looked awesome. The guy who played Kung Lao was awesome. Raiden is Asian, which is awesome. He was a white guy in the 90s movie, and I was so glad to see him back to his true form from the games as an Asian character. This whole movie has a lot of Asian representation, which I'm a big fan of. When it comes to martial arts or properties that have a mostly Asian cast, why not do that? And I understand in the 90s it's like, well, yeah, it's the 90s, so of course it's not going to be super culturally aware or whatever. But I'm glad this movie had the right casting for the characters, and it worked out very well. I enjoyed seeing all my favorite characters up on the screen again, and they finally get to do fatalities this time, which was awesome, because the 1995 movie was PG-13, pretty bloodless. This movie goes for it. It has a lot of blood, it has a lot of gore, and it's really exciting. The power sets of the characters are really cool. And yeah, it's a fun Mortal Kombat movie. Is it perfect? No. The main character is kind of boring, and there are some really silly moments in this movie that a lot of people would probably roll their eyes at. But for me, I enjoyed it overall. I do think it could have been just a little longer and had a little more world building and maybe one more action sequence. But what we got was still fun, and I enjoyed it, and I'm excited to see a sequel. I'm going to give Mortal Kombat a 7 out of 10. So anyway, those are my rant for Godzilla vs. Kong and my review for Mortal Kombat. Thank you guys so much for watching. Comment down below what you think of these movies. Were you disappointed with GVK, or did you like it just fine? I'm sure a lot of people enjoy it. I had way too high of expectations for it, and it kind of let me down, so I was a little more pissed off than I normally would be about it. If you enjoy that movie, cool. I want you to enjoy it. I wanted to enjoy it. And also, what did you think of Mortal Kombat? Did you think it was really stupid and bad, or fun, like I did? I thought it was fun. Of course, I went in with much lower expectations, so that means I came out of it being more pleased with it than I did a movie I had higher expectations for that let me down. I need to reevaluate my expectations when I go into these movies. And that's my fault. That's on me. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please like, share, comment, and subscribe. And I'll see you guys later. Goodbye.